9th of January, SS Beria, Miss Pavlova's cabin. Somehow, the door to the cabin we were in ended up bolted after we made an emergency stop. Susato-san took a deep breath and gently slid back the bolt. Yo! What are you doing in Miss Pavlova's quarters? You both look unhurt. Good. Yes, we're fine, thank you. What on earth happened? We heard something about how we were going to collide with another ship? Yes, it appears to have been a false report, though. A false report, eh? And by what manner are these reports made? And how could one perhaps go about making one, I don't know, in the wee hours of 2, 3 in the morning? How did that happen? There's a dense fog outside, so it's extremely difficult to see. Someone must have thought he saw a ship ahead. This person obviously triggered the alarm, and that's why we made an emergency stop. Everything is chaos! Passengers are screaming, crew are running everywhere! This first-class area is the only quiet part of the ship at the moment. Oh, I see. Someone triggered the alarm. Does that mean... Oh, by the way, game, you don't need to, hold my hand with, the different colored text. I get the implication without it. Sheesh. That should be the difficulty settings in this game. How much help do you want with, highlighted and colored text and stuff? Did someone press that button outside? Ah! You wicked intruder! There's those in black! You are the devil! Sorry? Me? I've been called a lot of things before, but devil is a first. You opened my traveling case? How could you? What? Oh no, we didn't touch it. That's right, Miss Pavlova. It was already open when we came into your cabin. Inspector! Yes? Arrest this man! I know he did it! He is a criminal! It is not enough that he has killed a man. Is it not enough that he has killed a man? Ah! And he has a stowaway as well. If Vixen promises not to steal chicken, do you believe? I don't even know what a Vixen is, but we'll go with the analogy. Take him away. He is a trespasser as well as everything else. Stowing away, trespassing, killing! She is right. You are the devil. It doesn't look good, does it? There's a cell below deck. Throw him in! Tomorrow we talk in Hong Kong. Then we give you straight to the police. Wait, a cell? Honestly, it's probably an upgrade in terms of accommodations. Please, Inspector Osanaga, is there nothing you can do? This is a Russian vessel. I really have no jurisdiction here. After my last effort to appeal to the captain's good nature, I think I'm out of options. This is terrible. This is a real crisis. I've got to find a solution. Immediately. Let's examine some stuff. But the dresses! I just need to keep calm and focus on the task at hand, which is investigating. Don't touch my things! You want me to show you where crawfish hibernates? Hey-ya! What, did she attack me? Mr. Naruto, what do you think you're doing? Wow, everyone's attacking me. I was just starting to think she was my friend. Isn't there anyone who can help me out of this mess? Well, I think you all will note that obviously the what? Hi? What the? What are you doing up there? Mr. Sholmes? Naturally, I was analyzing what a weight of 20,000 rubles feels like on one head's head. Have I not told you that as a detective, it is my business to know what other people do, not? This isn't mere tomfoolery, my boy. Oh, no, no. Well, why were you hanging from that hook before, then? Isn't it obvious? To properly assess the weight of the 20,000 rubles, naturally. I wish to determine if it would bend that conceited-looking hook on the wall so full of brag and bounce. I never know whether to take this man seriously or not. You again, the great detective. Ha, Inspector! I confess I've been looking for you. I have something to report to you most urgently. Well, you might try looking for me somewhere other than a hook on the wall next time. What is to report? Speak! An urgent report from a great detective can mean but one thing. Yes, the case of the curious murder that took place last night here on this vessel, the steamship Burya, has been solved. By me, naturally. What? Really? Yes, I have eliminated all other possibilities. No other explanation exists. So, allow me to illuminate all your minds. For I am about to reveal my great detective's greatly admired great deduction to the case. Ha! You have solved it. Even hedgehogs understands this case. We all knew who was responsible for killing student boy this morning when we found criminal in wardrobe. It is this doorway, and he has handcuffs to prove it. I didn't do it. And also, handcuffs are merely proof of an accusation, not proof of a crime. The trouble is, there doesn't appear to be anyone else who could have killed the victim. Because, as everyone knows, the cabin door was bolted shut from the inside. That means the culprit must be someone who was inside the cabin. Yes, it's what's called a locked room mystery in detective stories. Da! Locked room! That is point! The room was locked. Well, I can't deny that. There's no way the bolt could have been drawn across from outside the cabin. Well, yes, but it could from gravity. We just went over this, like, end of last episode. Like, you're all quite mistaken. The cabin next door is not a so-called locked room at all. What? Oh yes, there is another entrance. An entrance used last night by the culprit in order to gain access to the cabin despite the bolted door. What other entrance? We never discovered one. Why, it gapes open-mouthed at you even as we speak. The ventilator, man! The ventilator? You think this is funny? I cannot even put my arm through that hole. That's because your arms are as thick as a tree trunks. You're suggesting that the culprit entered and left the victim's cabin through that tiny opening? It's not possible. Ah, but it is. And last night, the victim even witnessed the intruder in the act of passing through the ventilator. Mr. Sholmes, do you mean... Are you referring to the words Kazuma-sama wrote in his diary? 1:23 a.m. I could hear a faint whistling sound. 1:35 a.m. What looks like some sort of speckled band is dangling from the ventilator grill. Precisely, my dear madam. But what does it mean? What's the speckled band? The answer to that particular conundrum is in this very cabin. Mr. Sholmes, what are you doing? There is a distinct element of danger, but fear not, I am ready. What I am about to expose for you all to see will shock you to your cores. Behold! A bunch of people going, what the? Oh, it was a snake. Allow me to introduce you all to the band, the Speckled Band. A snake? Indubitably. I mean, what else could it have been? Mr. Sholmes, just one thing. Pray, what troubles you? Well, that snake isn't really speckled, is it? It looks more stripy, wouldn't you say? Have you ever considered that perhaps your friend just has extraordinarily poor eyesight, especially given the likely dark conditions of about 1 in the morning? Yes, you're right. I think in this case, you'd have to call it the Striped Band, wouldn't you? You both see and observe with distinction. However, do you not think that is precisely the trap into which the culprit wishes you to fall? Oh my goodness, really? It's a trap? How exactly? I think perhaps it is time I explain the intricacies of my train of thoughts. Are you ready, Miss Pavlova? I'm sorry for the young man who died, but that is all. His death has nothing to do with me. This whole thing is nothing to do with me. There are 2 conclusions I have drawn from the facts. Number 1. Last night, your friend infiltrated the victim's cabin. And number 2. That same friend was responsible for the victim losing his life. No. She's turned as white as a bowl of rice again. Sholmes must be right. He's hit the nail on the head. Or, you know, maybe she's just really nervous and shocked at the proposition of, being punished for a crime she didn't commit. This young woman's friend killed Mr. Asogi. It looks like he can't speak with that snake coiled around his head. Wonderful. I would advise as little movement as possible, Seaman. You wouldn't want the fangs of that long friend in your neck. So everyone, let us begin. Sherlock Sholmes is proud to present his logic and reasoning spectacular. The great deduction. The game is afoot. Topic 1. Intruder's identity. Poor Pavlova, she's been the victim of 2 of these harebrained, deductions. Miss Pavlova's moments ago you claimed the following. His death has nothing to do with me. This whole thing is nothing to do with me. Yet you cannot deceive yourself. Yes, when you recall those horrid events, your aching heart smarts with pain. And it is that very pain that evidences your inextricable link to the victim's death. So we ask, what was the nature of this intruder that stole into the victim's cabin on that portentous night? Why, naturally, it was the friend with which you boarded this vessel, was it not? Ha, as I suspected, another telltale glance. Without a doubt, your friend is the writhing serpent we see before us. And yet, the fact leaves us in a quandary. Wait, is the snake actually the... It might actually be the seaman's pet. I'll take on it for a second. That's my new theory. The victim's written observations on the night in question tell of a speckled band. Whereas, regrettably, this specimen's markings do not fit that description in any way. What explanation can we then give, pray? What was this sight that fell upon the victim's eyes last night? No, don't look at me. This has nothing to do with any of this. Oh, but it does. You have the answer to this quandary even now, hidden behind your back. Yes, that which you are trying, but failing, to conceal, can only be the snake's sloughed skin. Evidently, after the subtle and horrible crime, this most deadly friend of yours shed its original skin. No? I don't know what you are talking about. Last night, through the ventilator, visible in this cabin, your then speckled friend slithered next door. I don't think that's how snakes shedding skin works. Would happy to be proven wrong, but anyways. Using the bell cord on the other side as a bridge, the serpent silently descended into the victim's quarters. In the dim light, it appeared to the young gentleman, who was about to lose his life, as a speckled band. In summary, the nature of this friend of yours, which last night infiltrated the scene of the crime, is a rare breed of snake whose markings change each time it sloughs its skin. A snake so dreadful, we can only imagine it would be found in the deepest depths of India. Conclusion, a beloved speckled snake. Topic 2. How Mr. Asogi died. Moving on, we come to the heart of the matter, the grim demise of the victim. How did this young man lose his life, and why? According to the data of which I have been appraised, it would appear that there were no visible signs of injury. In fact, the circumstances of the victim's death can only be explained by a terrible venom. Now, if we take that as fact, we can reasonably imagine that there remains evidence to affirm it at the scene of the crime. Oh, no, could there be? Yes, an examination of the deceased body will prove the cause of death conclusively. The almost but not quite imperceptible puncture wounds left by the venomous fangs will seal the truth. Yes, the vestiges of the snake bite delivered by your terrifying friend. This makes no sense. There's no point in feigning ignorance, Miss Pavlova. After the incident, you endeavored to hide everything, didn't you? But now your involuntary glance betrays the hiding place you chose. That's right, you hid the evidence that links you to the victim's death in that traveling case. When we first met in this cabin, it came to my attention that your case moved periodically. Your serpent assassin was restless inside, no doubt. It is telling that the victim made note of a low whistling sound that he heard minutes before his end. That was your signal, was it not? The sound you had used to train your serpent friend. To train? Indeed, you'd put the serpent through this ventilator and wait. After a period, you'd summon it back with a whistle. You couldn't know if the animal had done its duty, so you would listen for signs of life next door. If the victim appeared not to have been dispatched, you'd release the snake once more. Do you deny the snake has undergone such training? It's not true. Having slithered through the ventilator and down the bell cord, the creature needed only to sink its fangs in once, and its venom would course through the victim's veins, ending his existence forever. That is the true nature of the speckled band that took the poor young man's life. There can be no doubt, my logic is infallible. Conclusion. Death by a venomous snake's bite. Also, didn't we already check for poison? And there wasn't any. Thus concludes Sherlock Holmes' great deduction of the speckled band. Miss Pavlova has trained her pet snake as a killing machine. There on the floor you will observe a saucer of milk. The promise of food is the key to training any creature. Incredible! You've solved the mystery! Amazing. Your great deduction really lives up to its name. I see now why Sherlock Holmes has become such a household name. My dear man. It was nothing remarkable. As the Russians say, I could have done it with one left hand. Hey, Susato. He just made a deduction that doesn't pin me as a culprit. Don't poke holes on it, let it ride. Yeah. Susato. Could I venture an opinion, Mr. Holmes? But of course. What's on your mind? It's just about your deductions before. Some things don't quite make sense to me. I welcome questions as to my method, and will answer both loudly and proudly. Well, good. First of all, snakes are egg-laying creatures, part of the reptile family. You are well informed, madam. And reptiles, don't drink milk? Well, to be fair, Susato, humans aren't supposed to drink cow's milk either, but look where we ended up, so. I know it's different because, mammals and whatnot, and humans do drink human milk as infants, but still. Just because you're not intended to drink something doesn't mean you can't drink something. It's really only mammals that like to drink milk, you see. So I'm not sure it would be possible to train a snake using milk as a reward. No matter. No doubt Miss Pavlova used some other treat to encourage her pet to do her bidding. Milk was merely an example. The logic holds. Well, there's something else. Snakes have no ears. Yeah, so I'm not sure it would really be possible to signal to a snake by whistling. But madam, what of the tales from Arabia? Have you not heard of the snakes that dance to the sounds of flutes? I think perhaps the performers play their music in time with the snake's natural movements. Oh, is that how that works? Huh. Oh, I see. No hands, no feet, no ears? These creatures are so inept as to be practically useless! Don't take it out on the snakes, Mr. Sholmes. There's one other thing. You have more? Snakes use the scales on their bellies to propel themselves. So, I'm not really sure that a snake could manage to climb up a flat bell cord like the ones in these cabins. Then it should try harder. Please don't be angry with me, Mr. Sholmes. The point is, even if the snake had gone through the ventilator to the next door cabin, it couldn't have come back without help. What I'm trying to say is that there are a number of reasons why it's difficult to imagine the snake could have had a part in this. I think we need to step in and help again, Mr. Naruto. Oh, no, you don't mean. Yes, we need to modify Mr. Sholmes' latest deductions and turn them into the great ones they ought to be. I had a feeling that was coming. Alright, let's give it a try. Just what I was waiting for, Mr. Naruto. Yes, right. So, cast your eyes down to your wrists again. What? Huh? You've done it again! Your handcuffs are gone. Where did they go? Fear not, I shall see they're restored after our work is done. But why? I'm not even the one you're accusing of the crime anymore. Is this just for sport? I really wish you'd leave them off. Now, everyone, let us begin. Sherlock Sholmes is proud to present his logic and reasoning spectacular. Course correction. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. Okay, about the intruder's identity. Miss Pavlova, moments ago you claimed the following. His death has nothing to do with me. This whole thing has nothing to do with me. Yet you cannot deceive yourself. Yes, when you recall these horrid events, your aching heart smarts with pain. She does have a pained expression on her face. Yes, that's true. She looks as though Kazuma-sama's death is weighing heavily on her mind. But you're not sure Mr. Sholmes has read her quite correctly, is that it? Could there be some other way to interpret her expression? Okay. Here's my crazy theory. Okay? Somehow, Asogi met her when she boarded the ship and offered to help her with, like, her troubles with regards to, like, because she's, like, escaping, like, tough people. So he offered to help her, right? And then he dies, gets killed or something, okay? And the Russian that he wrote was meant for her as a signal of, like, hey, I may be dead, but the guy in the wardrobe will carry on my work and help you. It's a bold prediction, but that's what I'm going with. Let's take a moment and really look very closely at Miss Pavlova. Okay. Alright, an aching heart? I mean, an aching right ear. Oh, she's got a cat scratch. Okay, never mind. Oh, Naruto-san, look. That looks like a very painful wound. It looks like a scratch made by some kind of small animal. And fairly recently, too. But whatever scratched her doesn't appear to be around here. Okay, I mean, that's probably it. Anything else of note? She has hair. And she got an earring on her right ear. I don't think that's relevant. She has such petite ears among that beautiful hair, like little pink shells. Oh, what's that? There's something attached to her ear. Ah, I expect that's what's called an earring. It's a little piece of jewelry. An earring, is it? It really is tiny. Perhaps part of it is missing. Maybe it broke off. So now all that's left is the clasp part that attaches to the ear. If that's the case, she doesn't appear to have noticed that it's broken. Okay. So clearly, it is the claw scratch. That claw scratch smarts with pain. Yes, when you recall those horrid events, that claw scratch smarts with pain. Indeed, and simple observation reveals that the wound is fresh. Miss Pavlova, did you, in fact, receive that scratch sometime last night? But I think about the young man who died next door. I feel so sad. And when I am sad, the pain from this wound is worse. And it is that very pain that evidences your inextricable link to the victim's death. So we ask, what was the nature of this intruder that stole into the victim's cabin on that portentous night? Why, naturally, it was the friend with which you boarded this vessel, was it not? Ha, as I suspected, another telltale glance. Without a doubt, your friend, is the writhing serpent we see before us. It seems likely that the scratch mark on the back of Miss Pavlova's hand was made by this friend of hers, doesn't it? Except, snakes don't have claws, do they? No, they don't. They don't even have hands or feet on which claws might grow. Well then, if that snake isn't her pet, what is? What's the true identity of this friend of hers? We should follow our gaze now, Naruto-san. That's where we'll find the answer. Oh, okay. So we got just maybe it's Seaman Stroganoff. There's no doubt, is there? She looked in this direction. Straight at Seaman Stroganoff. Well, they do seem to be friends of sorts. But I can't imagine how he could possibly fit through that ventilator. Don't forget that I managed to fit inside Cosmo's trunk when we first boarded the ship. I would ask what that proves, but I think an equivocal little smile would be more effective. Okay, clearly though, it's the picture of her with the cat. Ah, look at the photograph in this frame. This must be something Miss Pavlova brought with her when she ran away. She's exceptionally beautiful, isn't she? Yes, that's true. But personally, it's a little black creature she's holding that's got my eye. Maybe we'd better take a closer look at this. Look at Miss Pavlova. That must be a stage costume she's wearing. It's quite stunning. I should like to have something like that. And she's wearing the 20,000 rubles on her head as well. Look. It's called a tiara, Naruto-san, and you shouldn't think of it purely in terms of its value. She'll see a strong-willed woman. To turn her back on the world stage and run away all on her own. Alright, but it's the cat. The little kitten. Look at the little cat Miss Pavlova's cuddling her. Oh, what a cute little kitten. It could vie with you, couldn't it, Naruto-san? For the blackest outfits. A black kitten. And from the look of this picture, at least, Miss Pavlova seems very attached to it.
Yes.
It's the kitten. Without doubt, your friend is the little kitten we see before us. Yes, the scratch on the back of your hand makes that abundantly clear. Oh no. The whereabouts of this black kitten isn't clear, but what is clear is that you brought the animal with you when you ran away, didn't you? Dakra is my best friend. I couldn't leave her behind. Darka would appear to be a Russian blue. And yet, that fact leaves us in a quandary. The victim's written observations on the night in question tell of a speckled band. Whereas, regrettably, this specimen's markings do not fit that description in any way. What explanation can we then give, pray? What was the sight that fell upon the victim's eyes last night? No, don't look at me. This has nothing to do with any of this. Oh, but it does. You have the answer to this quandary even now, hidden behind your back. Yes, that which you are trying, but failing to conceal, can only be the snake's sloughed skin. Did you see that? She just took something out of her pocket and hid it behind her back. If she just left it in her pocket, no one would have ever have known. Oh yes, ploys like that are Mr. Sholm's specialty. He's ever so cleverly forced her to reveal something. I thought deduction was his specialty. Or maybe making you believe that was a ploy too. Anyway, I find it hard to believe that's the skin of a snake. It also looks more like a necktie. In which case, just what is Miss Pavlova hiding behind her back? Well, let's take a look. It is something. So, well, it is speckled, and it is a band, but what is it? It seems to be soft and fluffy. Is that one of those like cat toy things? I don't know. A long piece of cloth of some sort. It could be the cat itself, maybe. Who knows? And that looks like a handle at one end. I think it may be a cat's toy.
I think it may be a cat toy. This sort is common in the West, apparently.
How's that a toy for cats?
Cats like to chase the band around and paw at it. Kittens in particular love that sort of play. You only need to wave it in front of them and they pounce to catch it.
That sounds positively adorable. That seems to be a cat's toy. Yes, the thing you are trying, but failing to conceal, is, a cat's toy. Precisely, and the true nature of the now infamous speckled band. And it was this toy that you dangled through the ventilator. You waved it around, I presume. Naturally, the victim could not fail to notice it. But why? For what reason? My dear boy, there can only be one answer to that. After her feline friend disappeared through the ventilator into the neighboring cabin, Miss Pavlova attempted to use the speckled cat's toy to incite the creature to return. Ah. In summary, the nature of this friend of Miss Pavlova's, which last night infiltrated the scene of the crime, is a blithesome Russian blue breed of cat by the name of Darka.
A truly troublesome feline young Darker is proving to be. She must be caged once found. You will forgive us for borrowing the photograph of your pet, Miss Pavlova. The photograph of Miss Pavlova and Darka has been entered into the court record. A photograph of Miss Pavlova and her friend, a kitten named Darka. The tiara she would wear on stage can also be seen. It was after I gave her food last night. That's when it happened. She scratched the back of my hand and then ran up the bell cord. Before I could do anything, she had disappeared through the ventilator. Darka, she's so naughty. A beloved kitten. Alright, how Mr. Sogi died. Moving on, we've come to the heart of the matter, the grim demise of the victim. How did this young man lose his life, and why? According to the data of which I have been appraised, it would appear that there were no visible signs of injury. In fact, the circumstances of the victim's death can only be explained by a terrible venom. Last I checked, cats don't have venom. What Mr. Shulm says is true. There were no signs of a wound anywhere on Kazuo-sama's body. That's right. But Mr. Shulm seems to be unaware of one very important detail. Kazuma wasn't poisoned. Yes, it would seem so. Let's give him the information he's missing now. I guess that's in the, where is it? The post-mortem report. Time of death, damage, no obvious external injuries or traces of poison. Could it be asphyxiation, perhaps? Okay. Yes. In fact, the circumstances of the victim's death can only be explained by the post-mortem reports. Ah, yes, I knew it was one or the other. His neck was... Indeed, the breaking of the cervical vertebrae is fatal, only that Goliath would be strong enough to survive that. Seeming strong enough isn't some immortal freak, you know? The jury's out anyway. We have on good authority that the victim's neck was broken. Now, if we take that as fact, we can reasonably imagine that there remains evidence to affirm it at the scene of the crime. Oh no, could that be it? Yes, an examination of the deceased's body will prove the cause of death conclusively. Kazuo died because his neck was broken. In other words, he was probably struck by something, or someone. Yes, that's a distinct possibility. As of yet, no weapon has been found, though. Presumably, Darka didn't silently creep up behind Kazuo and deal him a fatal blow. I suppose... it's possible that he had a fall and hit the ground awkwardly. Wait, we're going down the accidental death rabbit hole. Interesting. It could have been a terrible act of misfortune that he broke his neck completely by accident. Oh yes, a bad fall could explain it. It's rather hard to believe of Kazuo-sama, though. He wasn't a clumsy man. Well, we need to fix this deduction somehow. Is there anything from the scene that could explain what happened? Perhaps the scuff mark. Right, because you don't make scuff marks when you're just walking around. You'll make scuff marks when, like, you're sliding around, like, suddenly and you grinding the tread of your boots against the floor.
Yes, an examination of the mark on the floor will prove the cause of death conclusively. This particular mark, so prominently visible next to the victim's body, is a deposit of shoe polish.
Shoe polish?
Indeed, positively identified by a little analysis device I constructed, which I carry now as a matter of course. Beeswax, tallow, and dye were my results, the undeniable ingredients of shoe polish. And the color of the polish is a perfect match to the color of Mr. Asogi's laced leather shoes. Looking at this mark, it's not hard to imagine what happened. For some reason, Mr. Asogi must have caught his foot at that point on the floor and tripped.
Please, no.
And by a dreadful turn of misfortune, caught his neck against some immovable object as he fell to the floor. Suffering a fatal blow to the spine, the victim's vertebrae shattered, and in that instant he lost his life.
No! I don't know. I don't know anything about this.
Is that really true, Miss Pavlova? What about the evidence left at the scene where Mr. Asogi lost his life? Yes, the facts are as clear as day to me. You did all you could to conceal the incriminating evidence. But now your involuntary glance betrays the hiding place you chose. That's right, you hid the evidence that links you to the victim's death in that traveling case.
I don't believe it. Kazusama merely tripped over and now he's no more. It can't be true. I refuse to accept it.
I know it's hard to believe, but the mark on the floor does seem to suggest that's what happened.
But
if this part of Mr. Sholm's deduction is right, Miss Pavlova is trying to hide some evidence that would prove it. Here in this cabin, somewhere in the direction that she just cast her eyes.
Where, I wonder?
Let's have a good look around. The answer must be here somewhere. Yeah. And it could be the tiara. What's in the waste paper basket?
This is a waste paper basket. Perhaps all the first-class cabins have them.
But Miss Pavlova only started occupying this cabin last night. Presuming there's not much rubbish in there yet. Oh. What's that? Half of a bell. Perhaps attached to a cat. And if I recall, is the other half not in Asogi's room?
It's a broken piece of glass, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I feel like I've seen it somewhere before.
If it looks familiar, perhaps it's more than your mind simply playing tricks on you.
The waste paper basket. Well, that's right. You hid the evidence that links you to the victim's death in that waste paper basket. Here we have a fragment of some intricate glass object, it would seem. One that has a familiar air, in fact. Precisely. We found another piece of broken glass on the floor in Mr. Asogi's cabin. Did he trip over the cat? And as you can see, the two pieces fit together perfectly.
Oh, no.
So, Miss Pavlova, shall we consider what this tells us? Why would it be that part of this glass object, which was evidently broken at the scene of the victim's death, should be found in the waste paper basket in your cabin? You're well acquainted with this glass bell, are you not? I don't know. In that hushed Russian accent of yours won't save you this time, dear girl. Why?
because we have conclusive evidence linking you to the bell in question. What? Take it away, Mr. Naruhodo.
Yes. The evidence linking Miss Pavlova and the little glass bell, that would be... It's gotta be the picture of the cats, right? Yep, it's right there in the cat. Right there. Boom.
Yes.
If you look at this photograph, you can clearly see, hanging from darkest color, the very glass bell in question.
The truth has caught up with you, Miss Pavlova. The young man who lost his life last night did so after a truly inauspicious fall.
And the cause of that fateful stumble? Your absent feline friend, Darka.
I couldn't tell anyone. I'm sorry.
Death by tripping over a cat? Huh.